Oluwatife, Deborah, Effort, Eniton. It's good to see everyone. How are you doing? Happy holidays to everyone. Hi, hi, hi. Please let me know if you can hear me, you can see me. Hi, Aisha. Good evening. It's good to see everyone on the call. Do I need more responses? Let me know if you can hear and see me clearly. Okay, thank you, Eniton. Good evening once again. Thank you, Luken Baba. Hi, Deborah. Happy holidays. Yeah, I hope everyone is well rested and eating plenty meat if you got meat. Meat did not reach me this side, but it's all right. It's all right. It's all good. Thank you, Diana. Happy holidays to you too. Okay, so once again, I just want to sincerely apologize that we're starting late today. Let me just be sure that if our facilitator is online yet. I'm not sure he is. But then, okay, so just before we go into today's discussions, would anybody like to drop their light bulb moment? Hi, Apasete. Nice to see you today. So we had a good class yesterday, right? So if you were on the call yesterday, would you like to drop your light bulb moment? What was that one thing that you took? Or so far, we've had so many trainings here. So what is that one thing that has just stuck in your head and you know that this is one thing you've learned? Please drop it in the chat box. Drop it in the chat box. One thing you've learned, so far in the trainings. I'll just be checking to see if our facilitator has joined in. But okay, I think he has. Okay, so let's drop down one thing that has stuck with you, in the course of these trainings. I'm waiting for your responses. I'm waiting for your feedback. I like to see your comments. One thing you've learned. I can't see any chats yet though. I'm waiting for you guys. I'm waiting. Okay. Thank you. I think I can see some. Luken Baba says a real leader focuses more on people development beyond their personal achievements. Oh yes. Thank you so much for that. Bolus Lucy, profiteering, micromanagement. Oh wow, nice. Adebukola says leadership is bestowed on everyone. Exactly. Thank you. On everyone. Some more. Any more? Okay, let me see. Hi, Adewale. Good evening. Okay. So while you keep dropping your light bulb moments, we have our facilitator for today on the call. He's online already. So let me just read his profile so that we can go into today's discussion. Yeah. So we have Mr. Osiriame Momodu. Osiriame Momodu is a seasoned and accomplished professional who currently serves as the head of advisory services and strategy at InterSwitch Group, a prominent financial services company. With a demonstrated history of delivering exceptional results in the financial services industry, Momodu has established himself as a strategic leader par excellence. Osiriame's educational background is equally impressive, having earned a master's degree in systems engineering from the prestigious University of Lagos. This advanced degree has equipped him with a deep understanding of complex systems and the ability to analyze and optimize processes for maximum efficiency and effectiveness. Throughout his career, he has consistently demonstrated a strong commitment to professional excellence. His ability to lead cross-functional teams, foster collaboration, and drive strategic initiatives has earned him a reputation as a respected and influential leader within the industry. So join me this evening as we welcome Mr. Osiriame Momodu. Hi. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Sorry for joining it. I was trying to connect. Can you hear me well?
Crystal clear, we can.
Okay. So let's make the best of it. We know it's holiday time, and what usually happens during holidays is the network gets lock jammed. So I will share my screen and then we'll start. I've been given the unenviable task of taking us through what the topic about how to upgrade our business using technology. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'll try to run through some basic stuff. Some of it we already know. It's not new to us. And then leave room for some discussion. Okay, in case we have questions and all. Tosin, I believe you would help me with the chat in case anybody has any questions.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So the outline, I'll take us through a brief of Industry 4.0, and then I'll talk through how we differentiate, create differentiation using technology. And then the last thing is how do we go ahead to leverage the technology? How do we build a roadmap whereby we use technology to create that difference in our business? And when I say business, I'm using it loosely in the sense that it's not just whether you are the entrepreneur or the leader of your business, but also if you are currently working for someone, okay, you have your career that running through, you really don't need management in quote to direct you. You can actually steer the course of that'll actually make a difference. Okay. So moving on. So Industry 4.0. What is Industry 4.0? We're currently in the fourth industrial revolution. It started in 2015, right? Of course, we are aware of the first industrial revolution, where in 1760, right, started in Britain. The British were able to leverage coal and steel and use it to do creative stuff, right? From building ships to building guns that could actually fire with gunpowder. And it lasted for over 100 years, right? Before scientific development, discovery of electricity and all led us into the second revolution. And then later on in the 1950s, we got into the digital age just shortly after the Second World War. And we enjoyed that till we entered this current century. So currently we are in the fourth industrial revolution, in case we didn't know. And I felt for us to understand how we use technology to play, to improve ourselves, to improve our businesses, it's good for us to understand these technologies. Okay. The first thing is, unlike the previous um, revolutions where it was just one thing or two things that kind of facilitated development during those revolutions. In this current revolution, it's eight. Okay. Um, Before I go on, the reason why these revolutions are important is because if we know what is powering or driving the revolution, the industrial revolution, we do understand that industries power economies. And when I say industries, it's not just those manufacturing factories that people mass produce stuff in that are called industries. Okay. Industries could be anything, could produce stuff, physical goods, it could actually just produce services. But you see, what makes these revolutions phenomenal is any company, any business that is remotely connected to the source, to whatever drives the revolution, always does well. Okay, so in the first revolution where there was coal and steel, shipping was a big deal. Ships were built with steel. Of course, there were wars that were fought. People built a lot of things. Anything that had to do with steel and coal and all, it boomed. Okay, in the second industrial revolution where you had electricity and scientific advancement and discoveries, that was when we built cars, that's when we built manufacturing processes and all that. You leveraging science and the way chemical reactions go, anything remotely connected to those things boomed and grew. So when you talked about billionaires and millionaires of those times, they were all related to these things. Okay. So let's fast track to this fourth industrial revolution, right? The things that govern it: robotics, AI, blockchain, 3D printing, quantum printing, biotech, and Web 3D. Now, the top companies of our time, arguably, are all related to this. Okay. And the things that drive this revolution, really, that make it tick, is one, cloud computing, having that cloud infrastructure whereby you don't need to have servers or server infrastructure to be able to save things. So right now, I know a number of us have Google Drives where we save all our pictures, save all our documents. Back then, some 20 years ago, we would have been buying floppy disks and hard drives, to try and save all those documents and pictures on. Well, now there's cloud, and it's even much cheaper than would have even gotten a drive. Okay, even if you add inflation to it. Number two is the social interactions, the fact that we can be having this lesson and I don't need to be in a classroom with all of you there, right? We are all communicating via Zoom. And post this class or before this class, I'm sure the academy, right, would have been reaching out to everyone that is part of this academy right now through one social medium or the other, right? That is part of what the things that has enabled this revolution to drive. Data, how we use data, how we collect data, how accessible data is also one very key thing. And I'll speak about it later on. And then, of course, mobile. The fact that some of us on this call are not necessarily using a computer system, we're using a phone to be part of this program. These four things are things that have helped to drive this entire revolution. And most importantly, when you now think about businesses, depending on what you want to do as a business person, Web3 has to do with the internet, right? And when you now think of 5G and how easy it is for us to navigate and create things on the net and access things on the Web3 makes these things possible. Okay, we talk about Internet of Things, a situation whereby even inanimate objects can take instructions, can actually think through specific routine actions that we normally would do. So, for example, your lights, do you need to stand up and switch off your light or switch it on? Nope. You can just give it a command. Okay, you can control it from your phone. Okay, maybe if you have a water tank at home and it's running empty, you do not necessarily need to go out or give somebody instruction to switch on the water pump, right? It's automatically probably prompts you on your phone to say, well, the tank is empty, and then to take action. Or one favorite example that I've heard is when you're running low on fuel, right? It just immediately contacts your dealer to come top up your tank. Those are the Internet of Things, okay? Home homemade examples are usually the best examples for Internet of Things, but it also transcends to even how you serve your customers and all. There's blockchain technology. When people think of blockchain, they think about cryptocurrency. But one thing you should understand about blockchain is that what it does is it gives everybody that is part of a particular transaction, if I use the word, the visibility that everything is transparent. So today, for example, in other words, it kind of takes away one, the ambiguity, two, it also helps in legislation and regulation of things. So if I should use the example of what example should I use that will resonate? If I use okay, let me just use a typical financial transaction where you do a transaction. Maybe you decide to send money to Tosin for maybe to buy something for you. Okay. And maybe the transaction was successful, maybe it wasn't, right? So a lot of times when you do that kind of transaction, what you end up doing is you end up sending Tosin the receipt. Hi, Tosin, I've sent you the receipt of the transfer I just made to your account. With blockchain, you don't need to do that because it creates this kind of end-to-end transparency, right? Such that you and Tosin can view whether the transaction was successful or not. Okay, and if there was any other party to the transaction, maybe a bank, maybe government, whoever is also supposed to have a view to whether the transaction happened, because sometimes government want to collect value-added tax, sometimes regulatory bodies may want to see whether the transaction was, or maybe the bank wants to see whether it was successful or not, so that in case there's any issue, they can step in. Every single person, once that transaction is communicated, can view to see those kind of transactions. So blockchain just creates that end to end. There's no need for me contacting somebody to find out whether this thing happened or not. And it has diverse applications from not just financial institutions. You could apply it to logistics and supply chain. So those times when you send a bike rider to go and drop something from one place to another, right? You can have a view to where the bike rider is and all that, depending on how it's applied. But usually it's even used in shipping, export, import. So your goods are on the high sea, you want to know where it is. You always, and then of course there's money involved. You don't want to pay your supplier until the goods arrive and all that. Blockchain helps to create that kind of transparency. Okay. There's biotech. Biotech, it's just trying to use technology to what should I use without being incorrect, to solve some of our biological problems. Okay, so you see people trying to synthesize cells and skin tissues to try and replace dead cells or sick cells, just to try and bridge that medical gap that is kind of created when people fall sick and they probably need a transplant or they need a some form of biological fix or the other that is not necessarily just plastic surgery as we all are aware of. That's where biotech comes in. And it's really, and then of course, it even goes as far as creating vaccines and medicine for stuff. Okay. There's robotics. I don't think I need to explain robotics uh, too much because we all are familiar with robotics. AI, artificial intelligence. This one, we are all familiar with Siri. For those of us who use iPhones, we're all familiar with Alexa. For those of us that are familiar with Amazon Web. And then of course, most recently, ChatGPT and Gemini and all the forms of AI that are around, whereby they not just have access to data, because actually have to have access to data, but actually able to use this data to think constructively towards what does this person want or what would this person typically want to do, and can I do it for the person? So it goes from creating presentations to creating solutions and products and services and providing answers and even probably dialoguing with you, right? So if I wasn't on this call together, probably Or maybe it's an AI that's talking to you guys right now. You guys don't really know. How are you guys going to check to make sure that I'm not an AI bot that is just interacting with you based on the notes I've already been prepared by the person who configured me as an AI bot? You guys can't tell. Okay. Maybe you will be able to tell. I don't know. But I'll leave that to you. I don't know whether I can still hear me. Tosin, can you hear me? Hello. I just want to be sure that I've
Yes.
not lost them. Okay, that's fine. So we have 3D printing. So we have situations whereby a typical example, car spoils, you need a part, mechanic says, oh, it's stabilizer linkage, you need to go to the market to go and buy it. It is, and then the market you need to go and buy it in. For those of us who may have traveled to Ibadan for the holidays, you have to buy from Lawansin or Oshodi down or Ladipo down here in Lagos, right? With 3D printing, you just need the design of the stabilizer linkage. You have a 3D printer that just going to just print out the stabilizer linkage for you, right? And then voila, you have what you need, and then you go ahead and use it for what you want to do. And this 3D printer has helped in fast tracking a lot of builds and manufacturing, basically, that needs to be done. Okay, because a lot of the manufacturing we need these days are not just off the book kind of manufacturing. Some of them need to be designed, custom designed and all. Okay, and then the last one is quantum computing, which is my kind of my favorite. But like AI, it also depends on data. In fact, AI and quantum computing, they're actually related in the sense that quantum computing helps you to analyze and think through and process huge forms of data at a lot of speed, at great speeds, right? Of course, it will depend on network, it will depend on your cloud infrastructure, right? And what they call it, it's this kind of quantum computing that AI thrives on and uses to give you those wonderful results. So when you compare Meta AI and ChatGPT and Gemini, right? The difference between the three is one, how much data they have access to. Two, how well are they able to compute information that is given to them? And three, how intelligent have they been configured to be able to give you that the same? Because they are configured based on use cases, based on learning and algorithms that have been given to them. Okay. So I've kind of spent a lot of time on this, right? And one more thing I would also like to stress is the fact that when we think about what business leaders around the world have been thinking about with this first quarter of this year, right? A lot of what they've been thinking about is all around AI, labor, more AI, and sustainable instead of sustainability, right? Because everybody wants to reduce costs. Everybody wants to do it in such a way that they improve productivity without taking it away. So you can see on the screen, there's a lot of talk around. Yes, people are still talking about inflation, inflation, inflation. People are talking about supply chain. How is it that they're able to get stuff, as quickly as possible with all the disruptions and the wars that are going on and the fightings that are going on in certain places like the Middle East and like in Eastern Europe. It's kind of causing a lot of disruptions in the supply chain. How is this going to help? Uh, how are businesses going to overcome this thing? But you see some of the things that they keep talking about. You see AI, you see cloud, right? You see generative AI, where the AI is able to create, not just wait for prompts, but actually create things based on the scenarios and circumstances. Okay. You look at the labor market, people are talking about salaries and increase the salary because there's inflation. When there's inflation, companies tend to look for where do they cut costs from. Okay, and they tend to go to layoffs, but they're looking for AI to to try and bridge that gap. Now, somebody like they always have said since we were growing up that when you do all this technology, you tend to replace people. But the way I think we should think about it is when you have technology, it's room for us to upskill ourselves. So maybe that's one of the first things we need to understand. With technology, with the technology that is available today, for any business to succeed or for any job you're doing for you to succeed, you need to upskill yourself. Okay. It's no more one of those things where you say, oh, because I didn't study science or I didn't study engineering, so I'm allowed to be ignorant of technology. No. These days, I have colleagues, I have friends who studied finance and who their data analytics skills are on point. Okay. In fact, they can, if not for the fact that they are finance focused, they are they do real good work when it comes to data analytics and AI and use of AI to do their work. Okay. So no matter what you are doing, whether it's in law, whether it is in tech, whether it's in engineering, whatever it is, you we really need to scale up our knowledge of tech and start thinking of how do we apply tech to what we do. Okay, because like you can see, CEOs, they didn't say CEOs in tech, they didn't say CEOs in Tesla, they didn't say CEOs in Apple, they said CEOs across. Okay, irrespective of what all they were thinking about, all they're thinking about right now is how to use AI, how to leverage it to improve their business outcomes. Okay. Um, Now the effect of this revolution has already begun. Okay. Like I said, it started in 2015 and we're 9 years into it, right? So nobody's wasting time. Okay. Um, People are going to form alliances around it. A lot of businesses are scaling. So back gone are the days whereby you say, oh, I cannot enter the oil industry because if I need to enter the oil industry, I will need to to acquire a lot of capital and build a lot of infrastructure like Dangote has built to be able to enter into the oil industry, right? If that was so, Uber won't be thriving today because Uber is thriving on the fact that it didn't need to buy a single car, right? It didn't need to own tough or landed or physical infrastructure to get it running. All it needed to do was to leverage data, clouds, build up some form of intelligence, leveraging the information they had so that they're able to provide you and I you and I being passengers with relevant information as to where we could get a car, right? Or a cab driver easily and free. They really didn't need infrastructure, okay, to do that. And part of what they also needed was the ability to create, I mean, people created APIs and so they leveraged existing physical infrastructure. So a driver, somebody who owns a car or who has leased out his car, has already done the work of getting the car, right? All that was required was to link that person to somebody who needed the car. Okay, and here we are, we have Uber, as it were. Okay, so we have situations that even in businesses that you think that in industries where you think that you cannot play naturally, there are areas where you can actually play comfortably. And you are seeing a cohesion or a what's the word? A coming together of industries to form what you know as an ecosystem, right? So, for example, in the banking ecosystem, of course, you have the banking industry where you have the banks, as they were. But you know that for every bank, they have ATMs, right? They have other infrastructure, they have networks which they use to communicate from one branch to the other, from one bank to another. They have consulting firms, they have partners that do some one or two support jobs for them, admin work for them, keep their banks clean, service their cars and all that. They have telcos, they have financial institutions, international institutions that they also link up with. You see, even though these different players, right? You may say that, for example, the telcos are in the telco industry, all right? The different OEMs. And when I say OEMs, I'm talking about suppliers of maybe simple equipment that the bankers need, like the core banking applications the bankers need, even though they're in different industries. All of them come together, right, with the output of their industries to make the banking ecosystem work. Okay. And how they connect with each other, right, increasingly is based on technology. Okay. And industrial revolution, as we are right now, is making these things easier because some 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't as easy as it is. Another example I can use is the automotive automobile ecosystem, right? Whereby, or the mobility ecosystem, that's the word, mobility ecosystem, whereby we have the automobile industry, where you have your BM, Benz, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, Volkswagen, right? The car manufacturers. You also have what they call it, the people who manufacture the different parts of the car. You have the people who manufacture, the people in the clothing and upholstery industry. Those ones they deal with the materials and all. Ironically, you also have people in the tech industry there, right? And when I talk about tech industry, I'm talking about more of the Apples and the Googles and the Apples, the Googles, the Nokias, the Samsungs that are also there as well, who provide them with communication systems, right? And computing systems. Intel is also there as well, right? So people in the computing industry, working with those in the automotive industry and all that are coming together to find what you have the mobility industry, whereby you can enter into your car and then you can just click, oh, hello Siri, can I get to, I'm getting to the mainland. I want to get to Yaba to join the LIBL Academy, right, for a course. And Tina say, okay, to take you 1 hour, 3 minutes. It's all coming together, right? So this coming together of industries to form ecosystem is one of those things that's happening very, very well. But like I said, it gives the opportunity for us to skill up, right? Increasingly, you are seeing a lot of people um, migrating to countries. Okay, they are migrating to countries, and ironically, well, or not ironically, some of the countries that a lot of migrants are, especially from Nigeria, are going to is Canada, right? And why are they going there? Canada is a leader, is leading the forefront in adopting the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution, right? But in doing that, they realize that they need a lot of human capital. So you see the irony in the whole thing. People think that when you adopt tech, it means that everybody that is in NLC gets sacked, right? That's the wrong idea, right? Ironically, with fourth industrial, you still need people. But this time around, you don't just need anybody. You need people who have skill, people who have been able to skill up and scale up. And so if there's anything you take out of here, is how much do you need to know and what do you need to know to remain relevant in whatever you're doing. Okay. Differentiation through the use of technology. I'll talk through some of these things, right? Because it will help you pinpoint what you need to know, right, to be better, right? Just not just in your business, but in your career life. Okay. The it comes in three different ways, right? It's either you're thinking about how to be more efficient. It's either you're thinking about how to focus on the customer or how you want to be innovative. Okay. Traditionally, every business exists to create value. And when you create that value, in turn, you capture value back to you. Now, when I say capture value, you actually earn some money back to you. So you're not doing it just for free. You're giving value for value to come back to you. Okay, like an exchange of value. So first and foremost, what does your target what do your target customers want? Okay. And try to use technology or use technology to improve your experience with your customers because each time you interact with your customer, your business model is such that each interaction can be monetized. Okay. So you meet a customer that wants to buy, let's say you are selling biscuits, right? Once you interact with that customer, you want a situation that at the end of that interaction, the customer buys your biscuits. As much as possible, you want your success rate of buying biscuits to be 90%. Customer may try and price the biscuits. Customer may not like the way the biscuits are packaged, and improve that run rate, that your ability to close up a customer. Each interaction must lead to value to you. So leveraging technology to enhance those interactions, right? To build stronger relationships, right? To get the exact customer. Because sometimes your customer just needs a drink. Customer doesn't really know. But then again, you're offering the customer biscuits. How do you leverage technology to be able to know, okay, fine, what best, how to quiz your customer, to interact with them, to ask them the relevant questions, to be able to know that, okay, this is what you want versus this is this, right? The next thing is efficiency. So every business has a system. And especially in this part of the world, we don't pay enough attention to building business systems. Okay. And a typical example is in the country that we live in, whereby because we do not build systems that last, each time somebody is in government, it depends on the good nature of that person in government, whether the government will prosper or not, whether it will do well or not, right? But if you build good systems, sustainable systems, right? Remember the chart we showed 2 slides before, whereby sustainability is one of the things business leaders are thinking about. If we build sustainable systems, the truth of the matter is your business will be able to stand the test of time. And technology is going to help you not only make sure that these systems work the way they're designed to work, right? But to also make sure they work efficiently. How you build it, first have to design it first before you now involve technology to build it, to make sure that you get the right efficiency from it. Okay. Then you have the innovation bit, whereby you have your customer base, your systems are running efficiently. How can you go to the next level, right? We're not built to just stay on one level, right? We are meant to continue going. What's the next step? What's the next level? Case in point, our dear friend, our dear Nigerian example, Dangote, he built sugar, he built cement, he built flour. And someone will say, well, that's the end. He's already 70. It's time to retire. And the guy said, I want to build a refinery. And he builds a refinery, right? And he's running the refinery. And people say, you've done it again. Oh. So it's time to retire. And the guy says, I want to go into steel, right? He's not resting, he's not letting up. In your business, you started with something. Always ask the question, what next? Right? And it's beyond just leveraging technology. What next? When you think about what next, you can now think about how technology can now help you in that what next. But never be satisfied with the norm. Okay, because it's people who are just normal the way they are that get run over. Case in point, Nokia. Nokia was that company that for those of us that use their phones between the 2000 to maybe 2010 or 2011, it was the main staple. But they never asked themselves what next. They didn't do that until they were overrun by competition, by an emerging competition in the face of Apple. Okay. One question someone will ask is, how do we now go from here? Differentiating your business. First thing you need to do is to identify your business needs. Okay. One way is to look at the value chain of your business. And when I say value chain, we've talked about different industries. If you understand the value chain you operate in, it's very easy for you to now look at it and ask yourself the question, where are the interactions? Because every interaction in your value chain is a potential money spinner. Okay, so I've put up here the typical value chain for a retail process whereby the manufacturer manufactures goods, sends it to the wholesaler, from the wholesaler to the retailer, for the retailer to the customer, right? Each interaction point on this diagram, there is money to be made. Whether you're the manufacturer, whether you're the person who is in logistics, moving the goods to the wholesaler, or the one taking it from the wholesaler to the retailer, or you're the one delivering it to the customer, every single interaction point here is a potential money spinner. So it's always good for you to first draw out your own value chain and say, where's the money? You get? How much money is there to be made? Can I play out in this place? Okay, what are the pain points? What are the bottlenecks? What are the issues between this point and that point? Okay, is there something I can do? Who are the people who play in that space? How can I improve this value? Okay, those are that is the first thing you need to do. Identify what can be done in this your space. Okay, and when you identify it, you now have to start thinking about what are the solutions. And the solution is not necessarily immediately the application of technology, because you first have to design what the solution is, then you now apply the technology to say, okay, fine, I will use technology to solve this thing because it's easier. Okay, so you've seen your value chain, you've identified your pain points, you've seen areas whereby you can improve. The truth of the matter is Rome is not built in a day. Okay. So you need to build a roadmap to say, okay, fine, how can I go about improving my business? Okay. And when you think about it, have at the back of your mind that there are certain tools, basic fundamental tools that your business you need to be aware of, right? And you can easily take advantage of depending on the problem. First is keeping data. Okay. I always emphasize that no data is useless, right? As simple as the names of your customers, as simple as just build something whereby you can capture data of who comes to meet you, what do they take, as detailed as possible, right? But make it so that it's so seamless to gather this data that it doesn't take anything out of anybody. Today, when you open certain websites, they're always asking you for permissions. Can we read this? Can we do that? Can we know your location? Right? And sometimes you say yes, sometimes you say no. It's those kind of things that you need to leverage to be able to, and that's beauty about Web3, to leverage to be able to gather data about your customers and all. But you need to build data about what you do in your business, not just the internal workings of your business, but also about your customers and how you sell and the attributes of what you sell, because it is that's going to help you build out what technology solutions you should put in place. You can leverage the cloud technology in terms of expanding your business. You can even use APIs. It's not everything that you need to own. Okay. Gone are the days where you need to own certain critical infrastructure to be able to succeed in business, right? You don't need to. You need to own critical interactions. Okay. So we moved from owning critical infrastructure to owning critical interactions. And that is why today your banks are very important stakeholders. Your telecoms companies are very important stakeholders because they own critical interactions that people need to make, right? And so it's almost like you can't do anything without reaching out to them. Okay. And then, of course, the use of business tools. There are a lot of business tools. They call them ERPs, depending on which industry you are, you need to leverage some of these tools. They help make business better. Okay. And the good thing about it is that a lot of these tools are now, you don't need to spend so much on some of these tools. There are always free versions. Sometimes there are cheap versions and all that you can always leverage to make your work better. Okay. And so last thing I would say is when you're drawing the roadmap for your business, identify your goals, design a system-based company. A system-based company is one whereby you really don't need to depend so much on people to move things from one point to another, even though you still need people and you need the people to constantly oversee and improve the system, not to operate the system. So that's the two things you need to clarify. You don't need, in a system-based company, you don't need people to operate the system. You need people to supervise and improve on the system, okay, to innovate on the system, right? To redesign, to architect the system, right? And if you're working in a company, that's how you need to start thinking. Now, some companies are people-based systems. Some of our bosses are people who are in Generation X. Some of us are blessed with baby boomers in our companies that if they don't see paper, you've not started. If they don't see you in the office, you're not working, right? But even on your table, the way you deliver things, it doesn't stop you from, as much as possible, designing it such that everything you deliver is seamless. That way, it gives you a fresher mind, a fresher. It gives you the ability to think differently and think better about the work that you're delivering. Okay. Evaluate the current technology and infrastructure you're using. Always stay ahead of the curve. Try and research, okay, so that you'll be able to know how to improve the technology you are using or not using, okay, how to take advantage of that technology. And nobody's too old to do that, okay? After all, some of our parents are using Meta AI thanks to WhatsApp to do stuff right now. So who are we not to take advantage of this stuff, right? Um, and then, of course, Rome was not built in a day. If you've analyzed the value chain of your business, if you've noticed the pain points, if you've come up with how do you solve these pain points or these issues along your business line, um, implementing a solution may not be a today, tomorrow job. Okay. You may need to prioritize how you phase it out. And you may need to do it in such a way that you're able to test along the way to make sure that you're solving problems and not just on a white elephant project that you are hoping that by the time you finish this stretch of road that more investors will come. Okay. Most importantly, like I said before, you need to train your team. Okay. And provide them with support. Okay. So I think with that, I come to the end of my discourse. I don't know whether there are any questions. Any
Thank
questions?
you. Thank you so much. That was a good one. Okay, so questions. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box so that we can take the questions. AI. Interesting. That was a very interesting one. Well done, sir. Okay, so questions. Let me check on YouTube. I'm trying to just 1 minute. Sure, there are no questions on YouTube. Okay. I'm not sure I can see any question on YouTube. Okay, thank you everyone dropping. Thank you. So do I want to take it that there are no questions on AI, how to use it in your offices? See, please admin help me if I'm missing any questions on YouTube. Okay, so Chimaru says building a good and sustainable system in your business will help you stand the test of time. Absolutely. Please, if you have any questions, I'm waiting. Kindly drop them in the chat box or in the chat room so that we can take them. So it means this topic was very, 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 very clear to everyone. Yeah, okay. So there's a question from Luken Baba. Okay, that's an interesting presentation. My question is, as a teacher, I'm leveraging on Luken Baba, I'm not sure your question is so coherent, but as a teacher, am I leveraging on technology by teaching with apps like Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, WhatsApp? If that's the question you're trying to ask, I want to believe. Uncle C,
If
did you?
that's the question, the answer is yes. Because you would have driven or taken public transport to the class or to the home of the students where you are taking a lesson with to actually teach them. Okay, so that's the first step. Yes, you are. Of course, there are times when you may need to show them some illustrations and all how you creatively show or display or display those illustrations using tech, right? It also takes some creativity and ingenuity because it's not so straightforward. I mean, you're a teacher, so you understand what I'm saying. Whereby some things that you could have just easily drawn on paper and said, "Oh, this is how it is," and so if you go from here to here, it's easy to show on paper, right? But when you're trying to show it like I am trying to discuss these things via Zoom, it's a bit difficult. But when you've planned your lesson, right, with apps and some other creative things like doodles and animations and things like that, just that when you're teaching, you are sharing your screen and you're trying to form some interaction with the child, yes, you are using technology. And it's I don't want to scare you, but it gets harder, but it gets really interesting when you start doing a lot more with it. Yes.
Yeah,
What are
absolutely.
the side effects or
Mhm.
negatives of AI?
Yeah.
One of the side effects of AI that people have warned against is, like I said earlier, it depends on one, the data that is available to the AI system, and then two, the what they call it, the intelligence algorithm through which it was used to configure that, right? Um, Depending on those two things, it brings to question the morality of what the AI is going to do, right? So you may have noticed it if you use, for example, Meta AI or Gemini. You would have typed a question or a query for it, and then it will have answered quickly, and then it will now erase the answer and say, "Sorry, I cannot give you the answer," right? Because they restricts its algorithm in some way so that it doesn't give answers to some questions. Okay, so that it doesn't bother around, especially when it's judged that I judge that the questions bother around morality and this thing. So you have those kind of cases. Okay, you also have the cases whereby privacy issues because AI depends on data, right? So some people may have issues with how much data the AI has access to that are personal to us, right? Which it will need to take some decisions that it needs to take. Okay. Of course, Europe is in the forefront of fighting against AI that actually um, that actually intrudes on people's privacies without their express permission.
Mm.
Um, there's a question I have heard that I can learn about data science and analysis through AI, but I haven't been able to maximize the knowledge. I don't even know about the process at all. How can I ask AI to teach me about data analysis? Is it possible? Yes, you can ask AI to teach you about data analysis. I actually started learning about data analysis before AI came to be. and simple Google search. I saw a book, and is it Data Science for Dummies or something? And I mean, I just followed the curriculum and was able to learn one or two things. But the key there is actually practicing it. So it's not just learning it, but looking for use cases where you can use it. So for example, I mentioned earlier in the course how I have some guys who are finance majors, accountants, who felt that they needed data science or data analytics to improve how well they provide their financial services wherever they are or practice their trade, which is finance. And all they just did was, as we were learning the data analysis, they were now thinking about how do I apply this to this everyday work that I do. So the key to learning it is not just learning it, I know how to do data science, is actually looking for that use case that you want to continuously focus on. Okay, and that's how you get better and better. But yes, you can ask AI. AI will show you the basic steps and curriculum, because some of the curriculum is sometimes paid, sometimes it's not, but it will show you the basic steps of how to learn it. And if you have access to ChatGPT or Gemini, preferably you could ask and then they'll give you something for you to learn with. Can you shed more light on how to design a system based for a school with low income environment for classroom and exam? Uh, I'm not sure I quite get to your question, but I do know if I understand it very carefully, we may need to discuss a bit later, because the first thing you need to do to design this system is first draw the value chain. Now you have an understanding of this school for low income environment. You have an idea, right? And we need to draw out every single interaction, the value chain of this school, of how the school operates and how it operates and gives value to the community, right? How money is coming, if it comes in at all, and all that. We need to design that first and foremost. And when we're able to see the interaction, so, and this is me being myopic, it could be that, okay, this is the school, of course, children are enrolled maybe by government, these children coming to the school, of course, you give them their basic lessons between a set time and so on. And so we just draw out the value chain, just like we did the what they call this, the retail, the market, where we have manufacturers manufacture products all the way to how they sell it and distribute it to final customers. You can draw out those interactions of how the school provides lessons to the children. There's normal lessons. If there are extracurricular lessons it provides, you draw that one out. If parents pay school fees to this thing, add that to the diagram. If not, if it's purely funded by the government, let's show it there, right? You can draw that out, how they have their exams, if they need to pay for exams and all that. You can draw that full value chain, right? Based on what you know, the context you have about it, then we can now look at each of the interactions and now start thinking about how do we make it better. So if I borrow a leaf from the previous question that was asked around the use of Zoom and other apps for teaching, right? If you see that you interact with the children, or maybe you teach them in the classroom and the teacher has to be there physically to teach them in the classroom, then we can now start thinking about, based on the peculiarities of that environment, how do we use technology to improve those teaching processes, right? It will start as simple as, how do we probably put a computer there or bring a computer there and start showing them some things, okay, step by step, or just a classic TV, right? Where we can dial up to the internet and do stuff. Okay. Or maybe you have the TV, but you have a smartphone and you don't mirror your smartphone to the TV. And then you can now be controlling what the children see in the class. It starts as simple as that. And then we begin to make it a lot better. Okay. When we say technology, it's not always one big giant metal that you join like this and like that. And then it's, no. It starts as simple, then it starts scaling up. Okay. But first thing you have to do is to draw out your value chain of your school. And then we now start looking at the interaction and say, how do we automate each of the interactions? Okay. If there's part where the child needs to pay school fees. Oh, okay, can we automate that school fees payment part? Oh, okay, fine. These are low income students. So their parents probably don't have a bank account and stuff. So we can infuse agent banking. You know, we have agents, right? Around the corner. So how can we infuse it to make the whole thing electronic? So people in the school don't need to hold money. Okay, so it's things like that that we start thinking about and make it better. My question is about AI. How is life going to be the next 50 years? Because how this AI turned to is making people jobless. So, like I said earlier on, it may seem like it's taking, in fact, the word I used to say is that what AI is doing, AI taking is taking up all those low, low, low routine jobs. It's taking them away. It's taking away some high, high thinking jobs, but things that would stress you or things that are more routine or things that you can call low routine. What it does is that it creates that opportunity for us to scale up and scale. See it as taking away or making them jobless. The truth of the matter, for everybody that is able to skill up, okay, and skill up well, then you don't have anything to fear. There's always a demand for people. We're looking for people every single day, no matter how much AI or technology we're using. It's just that the skill of the people we're looking for is now increasing the more. Okay. And that's why it's important that, yes, you know these things, but you have to keep focusing on what's the next big thing and improving yourself. The reason why you're on this course today is not because you don't have anything better to do. The reason why you're on this course today is because you want to see how you can improve yourself. And it's things like this that help you go to the next level. And that's why I don't think anyone who is on this course today will be redundant in the next 50 years because of that continuous improvement drive that you have within you. Okay. So the systems you mentioned and said are somehow cheap and some are free versions. Is it something an individual can buy to begin his business in a particular line of interest? Some are free, some are, yes, you can buy some, yes, you cannot buy some, but depending on the level of business that you're starting up with, you always find something that you'll be able to use and manage. Okay. A lot of times, some of us make the mistake of we want the thing that can do all things. And when we look at the price, we say, the price is too much. But sometimes, if you design your business, if you know what you're trying to achieve with your business, you're going to start small and scale up big, right? So, as you're starting small, you have something that you know that you can manage that can help you in this initial period. And then as you get better, you now scale up. Okay, and then you can buy the big one. Okay. But yes, there are things that you can easily buy, right? But you have to do it gradually. Okay. The good thing about this era is that it's not as hard as it was years ago to probably start up a business and run with it. Because there are already existing businesses in whatever industry you are playing with, and the existence of technologies, APIs, and all, you can easily just leverage those things at a cheap price. But your business model has to be on point. You have to know when a lot of people want to enter into business and they will say, oh, okay, fine, we want to sell our business in 3 years. Okay, that's how they want to make money. There's no how do we make money from the start? Okay, it has to be very clear how you make money from the start. And I'm giving you a key. If you know how your business works, look at the interactions and see how you can monetize the interactions. It is from monetizing from the get-go, your business can be profitable, right? If you look at that, and if you focus on that, you may not have any problem finding money to improve on your business as you go along. There's this chip that has recently been created. It's implanted in the human brain, which helps him control gadgets. Is this AI? Quantum computing mixed with what they call in biotechnology. It's more biotechnology, right? And yeah, and then of course it will leverage some AI. So yeah, in a way, but it's all fourth industrial revolution. So that is biotechnology because for you to plant a chip and the chip is able to communicate with your human brain, right, in such a way that it doesn't damage anything in you, and at the same time, you are also able to communicate with the chip and all that, biotechnology is involved as well. Okay. Can you shed more light on how to design a system based? Okay, I've spoken about this. How do I use AI in a private school located in a low income school fees on using it to set instead of using using the AI or using the system to set exams instead of paper. So um there are a couple of apps and solutions which help you set exams on the web. Okay. And if your school, private school, has access to computers, each student can have some access codes which they can log in and access the exams. And once they're done, it gets marked. Okay. Almost like for those of us who have done one form of what's the name of this exam that you normally do when you want to go abroad? One of these TOEFL or SAT exams, it's all computers and AI that they use to mark the questions, to reset the questions, such that people are able to do that. But there are free versions which people can easily leverage. Okay. For younger children, especially if it's not so much of if I want it to be fun, I end up using sometimes I use Kahoot when I want to set questions for children like that. So it gives them this fun environment where they want to play in, where depending on how fast they answer and all that, it can, but there are different options around that you could always leverage. It's just for you to look for the one that you feel would best work for the age group you're working with. Some of them are free, some of them are free to some extent, some of them are paid for. You get, but just find the one that works for you. Okay, thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. So I think that we'll just take one more question from YouTube. And the person is asking that how can technology be used to solve biological problems?
Uh, as simple as using technology to analyze. Um, Sometimes they use technology um, to create tissues. So, for example, where a tissue or an organ recently, even though the guy died, they created an organ for someone who had been, I'm not sure whether it's a kidney or so. I'll need to cross check the story. Created an organ for a man that was waiting on the queue, right? And he lived for 2 months with the new organ, right? As simple as the vaccine. So COVID vaccine, the reason why they came out with the vaccine so quickly was because they used technology to create it, even though we're now hearing stories about it, but not to bias your mind, right? But we use technology, whether it's creating the medicine, whether it's figuring out what the issues are quickly, whether it's in surgery, right? Especially outside the country, medical doctors are having a field day leveraging technology to perform really, really successful medical operations on people with very limited or next to none or next to no complications arising. Okay. You have things like laser surgeries and laser, normally, not to scare you guys, but usually when they tear open someone to have surgery on the person, when they're done, they take needle and thread, as in literally needle and thread. The needle is not the straight one, it's normally curved, and then now start sewing the person, right? True and true. But with technology, they're able to use laser technology to you know, seal up the person quick and nice. Okay. And all that. So there's a lot of application for technology. We have companies like Siemens. Siemens, you know them from the electricity deal that they were supposed to have done in Nigeria. They did it in Nigeria that never went live. And you know them, there's Siemens, there's Philips, your light bulbs and all that, and then some of your appliances in your home, Siemens, Philips, some other companies. I think Samsung is there in the mix. They are all they're all into medical technology. There's IBM too as well. There's General Electric as well, GE. They're all into medical technology and building things, AI and stuff to help people. Right now, even those people who go to war and get amputated, or people who have accidents and get amputated, they're having legs and appendages that are now linked to their body that almost makes it feel real. So it's not just movie stuff, it's actually real. So the application is there.
All
Oh,
right. Wow. This has been a wow class. Like wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Thank you for sharing from your wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for answering all the many questions. So, guys, please let's just appreciate Mr. Osiriame Momodu. Thank you. Thank you. That was a beautiful session. And we hope that when we call on you again, you will answer us, even though we've asked you like 1,001 questions today. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. It was nice having you. All right, sir. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's session. Please be reminded there'll be another session tomorrow. So please do well to remind your friends who didn't join today, remind them to join in tomorrow. It's going to be an awesome, awesome session. And I'm sure you all have been seeing the result of your tests, everything. So please ensure you do not miss classes. Ensure that even when you do miss classes, try to catch up on the replay on YouTube. So thank you so much, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, 5 p.m. tomorrow. Don't be late to class. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and please rest well. Drink a lot of water. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Bye.